did not stay for its entirety. They did have a lot of people from the school district that spoke. So it was well attended as well.
Good.
It was really nice to see all the people come out. So yeah, they had a lot of performances too, which was a bonus, I guess. So a lot of students got up and spoke as well, and like I said, teachers. So.
Good. I'm glad it was successful.
We are coming through live.
Okay, we'll go ahead and call the meeting to order. Please take roll, Tracy.
Harrington,
Here.
Hoffman,
Here.
Pollock,
Here.
Smith,
Here.
Wason.
Here.
The agenda's before you. No additions or deletions. A motion to approve.
So moved. Second.
Been moved and seconded. All those in favor say aye.
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 All opposed? Motion carries. Consent agenda. Anything on the list that you want to talk about first? If not, a motion to accept would be in order.
So moved.
Okay.
Moved and seconded. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Kevin, your turn. Unmute your mic, please.
Okay, got a couple things to report on. Southwest Growth Utility Project, we had a Zoom meeting with the contractor last week. They intend to mobilize and start work on June 11th, so 2 days. They're planning to start with the new sanitary sewer at Jones Boulevard and then work their way west. St. Andrews Drive, they did complete the first phase of paving last week. That's the east half in front of Centennial Park. They completed all the underground utilities and the grading for the west half of the project. So the next couple weeks, they'll be treating the subgrade with cement and placing sub-base rock and then preparing to pave the west phase. Overall, they're about 2 weeks behind. The contractor thinks they're about 2 weeks behind the schedule due to the late start when they had some COVID concerns. And then the Aquatic Center HVAC, Apex Construction, they're scheduling a progress meeting for tomorrow, I think. It hasn't been confirmed, but I think that is. And they won't be reporting any changes to the overall schedule. I think they're still on schedule. And then the last thing I have is Rancho Way Phase 5. We held the staff review meeting for the 25% submittal last week. It was a very long meeting, but I think it was very productive. And then the next milestone for this project, it'll be a 50% complete submittal in late July. That's all I have, unless you have questions for me.
Anyone for Kevin? Chris, you're on unmute.
I'm good.
Okay. Anyone else? Okay, Ryan.
Okay, good evening, everyone. Just a couple things from me tonight. First, what's become a tradition here the last couple months, just an update on some COVID-related issues. Next week, June 15th, we're planning to open City Hall. As I think you all know, we've had the vestibule open so people could communicate with us via the phone in there. Next week, we'll start with actually allowing people inside the City Hall, but not past our front desk area. A couple other things. Lap swimming will begin next week at the rec center. So right now, at the community center right now, we have our summer camp for kids going on throughout the day. This is kind of the next phase of opening that facility up, where we'll allow lap swim by appointment only. You may have saw on the website already that playgrounds are now open. We do have signs posted on all our playgrounds that it's enjoy at your own risk. They're not being disinfected, and folks just need to use caution there. I believe I reported this at the last meeting, myself or the mayor, but I'll repeat it again. Ball fields opened this week for practice, and next week for games, although NLCBS, I think, is actually starting practices next week. I can't say for sure that they're starting games. So I don't think they were starting any activity until next week. And then finally, we'll be discussing a little bit further here this week what to do about the outdoor pool and openings for the recreation center and the library. So we should have, by the end of the week, we should have some more information out on that that will provide some guidance for the rest of the summer. Last thing I wanted to just touch base on this evening was that earlier today, Tracy and I participated in a call with Moody's Investor Services. These are the folks that will rate our bonds, and they should have a rating out next week, early next week, on the upcoming bond sale. We aren't anticipating any changes. We had a really good conversation, but of course we won't know anything officially until next week. And with that, I just want to point out that here in the near future, you will be receiving a copy from Tracy of our official, what we call our official statement. This is a pretty thick document that gets updated every time we sell bonds. And we really ask that you take a hard look at that for any errors, omissions, or if you just have any questions. This is something that the Security Exchange Commission has really put an emphasis on recently, making sure city councils look at these documents. I know you all do. Just a friendly reminder that we'll need your help here in the next couple of weeks taking a look at that document. And that's what I have this evening, Mayor, unless anyone has some questions.
Any questions? Okay. Mayor report. I have two public comments that I need to read this evening. The first is from Kelly Smith, 365 Lockview Avenue. Dear Mayor Donahue and City Council members, it has been gratifying to see the response of many in the North Liberty community, our city government, and our police department to the cruel and inhumane murder of George Floyd by Minnesota police. I see our community speaking out against this horrific act of police brutality, as well as the great suffering and harm that systematic racism brings to our Black friends and neighbors. I appreciate the public response as well as the attendance of the mayor, some councilors, and the chief of police at the protest held in Penn Meadows Park last week. Thank you. However, speaking out is not enough. Attending a protest is not enough. We must develop concrete and specific plans and strategies to combat racism in our community. Work must be done at all levels, from private business practices to public policies covering education, housing, policing, and more. Today, I'm asking you to take steps that address policing. Specifically, 1, implement policies and tracking systems that prevent the over-policing of Black people in our community. 2, implement policies that reduce and restrict the use of force by police in our community, such as ban chokeholds, strangleholds, and other neck restraints in all cases. Also require officers to de-escalate situations where possible. 3, require officers to give verbal warning in all situations. 4, require officers to exhaust all other alternatives, including non-force and less lethal force options. 5, require officers to intervene and stop excessive force used by other officers and report these incidents immediately to a supervisor. 6, ban officers from shooting at moving vehicles in all cases. 7, establish a use of force continuum that restricts the most severe types of force to the most extreme situation and creates clear policy restrictions on the use of each police weapon and tactic. 8, require officers to report each time they use force or threaten to use force against civilians. I have been a resident in North Liberty for 19 years. When my biracial family and I generally felt safe here, it pains me to know that the same is not true for all of our neighbors that feel unfairly targeted. It pains me to hear people in our communities say that our police officers don't care about them, don't want to know about them, and don't want to establish relationships with them. I know that relationship building is not a skill that is easily mandated by policy, but I would encourage our police department to increase their engagement and outreach to residents on a personal basis. To our officers, I want to say that I know you have difficult jobs and that I value and support you. At the same time, I know we can all do better. We must do better. The time is now to make meaningful and lasting change toward a more just and equitable society for everyone. We are all part of the solution. The second document, the comment, comes from Jessica Baker, 1955, Silver Maple Trail. First and foremost, I want to thank you all for the most recent communications and transparency around the community response to the George Floyd tragedy. I'm a mother of 3 children here in North Liberty and have lived here for 7 years. My 2 older children are genetically mine, but my youngest son is adopted and has been our child since he was 5 days old. And I am so proud to be his mother. He does not look like my other children, as he has said since he noticed the difference that he is brownish and mommy is kind of pinkish. As I watch the tragedies unfold across our nation on the daily news, I am reminded that my sweet young innocent child will soon grow into the stature and appearance of many of these Black male victims of racial profiling and police brutality. You see, my oldest son is white and 20 years old, 6'4" and 200 pounds. Not once have I worried for his safety in our community. He can run freely in the hoods for exercise. He is not pulled over when he plays his music loudly while driving. He is not watched in stores as he shops. But as my younger Black son grows into a man, I know he will not be graced with the same freedoms, and that is wrong. These 2 boys have grown up with the exact same upbringing, parents, influences, and love. They are both my sons. The only difference between them is how the world views them. Does it make any sense at all that I am terrified to allow my sweet, charming 8-year-old to just run around freely in this town? I hope it's as soul-crushing for you as it is for me to think that anyone would see a smiling face as anything but the lovable, smart, kind, and caring boy I see. I need you to hear my voice and the voices of mothers of Black children in North Liberty. We cannot have a world where 2 boys are treated differently only because of their skin color. I know I am not alone with this worry, especially when I review the data that has been released. The City of North Liberty data indicates that while Black children represent approximately, white people, represent approximately 5% of our population, they represent 23 of police citations, 34% of arrests. Why is this happening? The proportion of Black residents is at a 6-year high, while the proportion of arrests of Black citizens is down slightly. It remains on an upward trend over 6 years. Most studies indicate that the overpresentation of specific groups in crime statistics is not because they are higher offenders, but rather because they are over-targeted. I'm asking the city of North Liberty to immediately implement policies requiring our police department to reduce the over-targeting of our Black residents and to reverse the clear trends of over-policing of our Black community. I'm asking this as a concerned citizen, a concerned community member of our Black community, and most of all, a terrified mother of a Black son. I think you all got copies of those comments, I would hope. Good, good.
Yes, and Mayor, we've posted both of those letters online along with our packet information, so the public can read them in their entirety as well.
Very good. Thank you very much. Next item on our list is Moxie Solon, presentation by Mr. Hall. Please unmute your mic, sir.
I'm here. Can you see me okay? Hear me okay?
Yes, thank you.
Very good. Thank you for having me to this evening, Mayor Donahue, council members, and City Administrator Ryan Heyer. I appreciate being here. So I just want to take an opportunity to kind of share what our situation is. And so obviously I'm Jason, president of Moxie Solar here in town. We started the company up we're founded right here in North Liberty in 2013. And as many people may have followed our, our track record over the last 7.5 years, we've been pretty successful in basically our ability to grow and help people. Basically, we started out as a one show operation here in the city of North Liberty. And just as of this month, we are in 11 states. We've got offices in 11 states, and we're doing about 100 jobs a month, which is pretty crazy considering that the first year that we were in operation, we did 6. So we're kind of proud of the track record that we've had. And recently, things had been continuing on a great path until the pandemic hit earlier this season. And so I'm certain many of you are aware that we are located right on 965 on Sugar Creek Lane. We're kind of sandwiched in between those two streets, and we have just candidly outgrown that space, as I'm certain you guys are aware. And so we actually have a purchase agreement in place where we are trying to move to a Cherry Street location. And that was all going to go very smoothly until the pandemic hit. And so we saw a little bit of a softening, or a pretty significant softening there in the beginning as a result of the pandemic. And so, we kind of tried to debate what we were going to do, and was this a short-term hurdle, or was this something that was going to be permanent? And it turns out that it should be some sort of short-term adverse impact to the company. But the situation that we're in is that we are under contract and being able to sell our Sugar Creek location, but our contract to purchase Cherry Street actually needs to happen prior to when we were planning to be able to move the Sugar Creek location. So as you may imagine, trying to carry 2 mortgages in a situation where liquidity is king, in a situation where what's going to happen next week, what's going to be in the news report tomorrow or today or tonight, those kind of things. So wanted to basically start a dialogue where share a little bit of a vision as to what we would like to see, what we might be able to see happen with the Cherry Street location. So the location we're looking at is 5.5 acres in 2 parcels, and it's sandwiched perfectly between Zeller and Cherry Street. And so right now there are 2 buildings on there, which would literally double the amount of square footage that we would have under a roof over there. But more importantly than that, I guess step 1 is to get us the room so that we're not busting at the seams. Let's get us off of literally the #1 most heavily trafficked road in the city of North Liberty. And maybe the people that are purchasing our property at Sugar Creek in 965 would be a better, higher best use for that property anyway. And so, but step 2 is once we get the contracting business moved over there, that we feel like there's a bigger opportunity at play if you kind of think through what the next 5 or 10 or 15-year plan might look like for both Moxie. And then if I was to take my Moxie hat off and try to look at being, Moxie being a citizen of the city of North Liberty, what would be in a really good interest of the city of North Liberty as well. And so we've kind of worked through this concept of, I don't know if you would call it a micro event center, but basically an area that's a destination primarily for locals, but it would probably be a regional, like Eastern Iowa destination as well, where it would have basically some of the attributes of the only thing I can kind of compare it to is the Power and Light District in downtown Kansas City, where it would have retail around the outside, be a couple stories tall, and then have kind of a city center square kind of thing that would be covered by some sort of canopy. In our instance, we would be able to cover that with solar, and so it would be kind of like a complement to what our business does already. And so the real kind of the concept is that it's kind of a new generation of retail where we see this new green economy kind of heading. Well, obviously, we've seen a lot of interest in the product that we offer from solar, but we also offer electric vehicles and charging stations and smart like Nest thermostats and a lot of those kind of things where we could become basically an area where we can, it doesn't have to be our business. Any number of different businesses can choose to locate there, but we would like to be able to say that we focus on technology and green or environmental types of products. And so complement that with a restaurant or 2 or 3 and a bar or a microbrewery or a distillery, even if we could kind of pull some of those, one or more of those things off, then it really becomes a nice destination where somebody can get a nice meal. They can go and listen to a music venue out in the city square, underneath the canopy, which kind of protects you from the elements almost 4 seasons until you get to really poor Iowa weather, obviously. But 10 months out of the year, we could hold events there. If there was a big screen and we were watching the Hawkeye games on Saturdays, some of those kind of things. And it's actually a kind of an interesting timing in that with the pandemic having hit, I think fewer people actually want to be inside in that enclosed space where, obviously that's where we feel like maybe there's a higher concentration of the virus. And so if we create a mostly open air type venue, it should be hypothetically, there's no proof to this. I have not done any research, but I would assume, let's just say I would assume that having a venue that is an open air type venue should reduce the concentration of the COVID virus, as well as any number of types of things that you could, can be subject to. And so I don't have a real formal plan. I don't have numbers put together. I don't have LOIs from tenants, but really, obviously, most importantly, this is something that I wanted to make the members of the North Liberty City Council aware that this does have some legs with the interest that we feel like our industry has and how we can offer some complementary products. And as you may have heard, we were efforting towards getting our manufacturing set up and going as well. And so it's one of those things where you can grab a beer if you'd like to, and then you can shop a little bit. You can buy an electric vehicle or charging station. You can go and look in on the manufacturing operations if we ever get that set up. And we kind of create a little bit of a barrier just through breezeways and such that if you want to go down and see the contracting company, look down the windows at, the cool trucks and the pallets and that kind of stuff. Most people don't think those are cool, but I do. On the other side of the wall, there would be a manufacturing operation, which is basically an entire clean room. So it is clean manufacturing. And so couple that with the retail side on what I would perceive to be the north side of the property and kind of a little more utility on the south side, and then create some sort of parking where people can walk around from the north to south, walkways, that kind of thing, and just allow them an opportunity to get out and experience things. So I think I'll stop there and just open it up for questions and see what you guys have to say.
Everyone have questions, comments, or what do you think?
Mayor, if I could.
Brent,
Yep, can you hear me?
do you have questions or anything?
I do. So, Jason, this is the kind of thing that I personally and a lot of my constituents beg for, is for North Liberty-based companies, giving them the ability to expand and stay here, not leave. Quite the contrary is to bring in contractors, suppliers, bring those that they're doing business with to North Liberty and sell North Liberty and explain how great of a place this is to be, to raise your family, and how great it is to do business here. Moxie has been one of those places. You guys have been one of those businesses that have started here, set your roots here, and you're interested in expanding. To me, as a counselor, these are the types of things, however grandioso they may sound, are the things that we need to invest in. This is the economic development engine that I harp about all of the time. It's not going after big box business. It's about supporting those who are already here and have the ability and the want to grow here. Frankly, we all know you've outgrown that space to the point of unsightly at times with all of the trucks and pallets and things that are out there. But that's come because of the growth of your business, and that's a good thing. I think, Mayor, I would mention that the timing of this idea that Jason is bringing plays into a much bigger and longer term goal of a Cherry Street infrastructure change. And the visioning project that we went through and the presentation that was made by Shive after that about what Cherry Street could be, and the idea of turning that more into kind of a pedestrian type of place, tying in the rec center with the police department, what could be eventually City Hall, with something like this. North Liberty is still looking for that one thing that is uniquely North Liberty. And so when we have a business owner that is established here and is bringing an idea, not just to move his manufacturing there, but something much bigger than that, that could be a pedestrian style, educational type of facility with bringing other partners in and doing other things. I get excited about ideas like this. I think that any investments the city has to do or wants to do with something like this has got to be mutually beneficial, of course. There needs to be benchmarks to hit, and there needs to be concrete deliverables that can assist the city in the growth and in developing that area. But I just mentioned that entire project and that vision of what Cherry Street could be with a current business owner that says he may have a plan to be one of the anchors in that area. And so I'm interested to learn more.
Anyone else?
I too am interested to learn more in listening to you explain your vision and where it will be at, and just some of the additional pieces to it is very intriguing. And I'm also kind of where Brent is in terms of when we look at businesses that have been here for a long time, how can we support them to expand in areas of growth? I have to drive past you all every day when I leave here to go to work. So I understand how you've grown and parking on the street and all of that. So to be able to look at how you expand locally here in North Liberty, I'm interested to learn more, whether or not how we play a role in specifically getting you to that point. I'm not 100% sure right now, but I'm definitely open to the idea for continued conversation and potential of helping with that.
Thank you.
Other comments?
Mayor, can I add?
Yes. Go ahead, Annie.
Jason, first, congrats on the success. I didn't realize 11 states and 100 jobs a month. That's insanely just awesome. So kudos to you, your leadership, your team there. Don't want to echo some of the comments already said, but it is always helpful, I think, to hear it from the horse's mouth. So to have private beyond what we've read has been beyond, it's just great to hear it from you. And I too, I think Dean and I used to have these conversations, where is that sort of center within the city that we can continue to attract people to? So I'm interested in the concept. We'd just like to learn more on what specifically you do see, if you did ask, and I know there's been some email communication with us, but I guess I'm also just, what's the precedence here we're trying to set? So I want to know a little bit more on the business side of it, what specifically you think would be beneficial from your perspective. Are you moving forward regardless? Just kind of more of those nitty gritty details. But I would say conceptually, this is a great thing. And I think just, the future. So thanks for your time and thanks for your continued investment in our city.
Thank you.
And I would kind of echo everybody else's comments. I think that that's quite an interesting concept in the area, and it actually would be a very good spot for it. I know that we need a little. You're considering asking for a little bit of help to kind of get things going along the way a little quicker than a whole big project and stuff. And I think that we can work with the city staff to kind of come up with something. One of the things that I think that we need in that area, not right now because nobody can go to the pool, but some parking, and that may be a way to, hey, we can help each other mutually out with a little bit of that. And then really, as we get to that big vision project, that'll be really quite interesting.
Mr. Heyer, would you, tell the group how you sense this thing moving along?
Yeah, thank you. I see this as really two parts, a big project with two pieces. And the first piece is to get Moxie Solar relocated. And in order to do that at that Cherry Street location, Jason is asking for a $50,000 forgivable loan. And my thought on this, in visiting with Jason about this, is that we would move forward. The potential there is to move forward with a forgivable loan, and in that loan agreement spell out certain milestones in terms of planning and development for this bigger part, kind of phase 2 of the project of the redevelopment. And if we can tick away at those milestones, that $50,000 loan is forgiven, and then we can focus on the bigger project. And then, of course, if nothing happens, then we can go back and ask Moxie Solar for that $50,000 back. So, it's timing is kind of the critical piece here, and I'll use the word trust. Maybe we would have to move ahead with a forgivable loan, trusting that Jason is going to move ahead with the milestones that we would outline in that agreement, and then continue to communicate and continue to partner. And Brian had a great example there, parking, partnered in different ways with Jason to make that entire project a success. So tonight, what I was hoping to hear from the city council was some sort of direction. Yes, it sounds interesting. Let's move ahead, or we're not interested. And I sense that the group is interested in moving ahead in some fashion. And if that's the case, our first step would be to start working on that agreement and working with Jason to identify what measurable milestones we can put in that agreement, so that we can measure that progress moving forward.
So Ryan, sorry, Annie, go ahead.
Annie?
I just want to clarify Mayor,
Go ahead, Annie.
okay. So tonight, Ryan, are you asking for conceptually, or you want yes, we're moving forward without?
What I'm looking for is the next step in this process, if people are agreeable, is to start developing an agreement. I wouldn't need a motion or anything like that. I see heads nodding. If we have consensus, that's great. That's not committing anybody to anything. We're just moving ahead in terms of an agreement development. The next step after that would then be for the city council to review and then consider that agreement.
And within that agreement comes a different milepost, such as concept, design better defined, et cetera, et cetera.
Yes.
Good. I would like to, I think it'd be great to see those details before we officially have a vote for it, personally.
Absolutely. We wouldn't expect anything less. Yeah.
I agree with that as well.
I agree as well. I would add, as we look at this, Ryan, I would be interested in not just the milestones for the 50,000, but I would also like you and Jason to discuss that larger picture of Cherry Street vision. And I would be in favor of, with the right agreements in place and the right discussions, in sweetening the deal for Moxie to help catapult them forward on a phase 2 if phase 1 is met and the milestones are met. Does that make sense? Kind of what I'm looking for. I think that, if that good faith step is taken, the milestones are met, I would like to see us put a good faith foot forward again and sweeten the deal and be partners in some fashion, and leave that to staff and Jason and what that looks like, bringing back to council, obviously for approvals as we move forward.
Yeah, that sounds reasonable. I think the challenge there, as we talked about, is the timing and ironing out the details. And phase 2 is going to be, phase 2 isn't just moving into a different building. Phase 2, and jump in here, Jason, if I misspeak, but phase 2 is going to require a lot more money and a lot more planning. And so that'll just take some time. But yeah, I get what you're saying.
Jason, one thing that comes to mind, and the pressure will be on as we engage in these agreements with you, our city has most recently had a very large disappointment in the Family Entertainment Center, and that was a big deal. Everybody was really excited for that project, and it dissolved and disappeared, and it was very disappointing. These are great things. They're great ideas. As this moves forward, our city's ready for a success and not another disappointment. So no pressure, but interested to see what that looks like.
Any last comments? So what did you hear and how to proceed, Ryan?
Well, it sounds like folks are amenable to taking a look at an agreement. So that's what Jason and I will start working on. We'll bring Grant into the conversation, and probably need to talk to our bond counsel as well. But that's the direction we'll go unless I hear otherwise.
Yeah, that's my impression as well. And we'll go ahead and start walking the walk on this one, okay?
Very good.
Very good. Thank you, council. Next item is board and commission appointments. Jason, thanks again for showing up. Board and commission appointments, those have been sent to you. Any discussion or questions, or if not, motion to accept as presented?
So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. In regards to that, we'll extend applications for another 30 days. And new applications be accepted until about a week before our first council meeting in June. Because if we can't fulfill things gender-wise, we still have people who may be very interested and want to participate in those commissions. Okay? Number 10, we have second consideration of ordinance number 2020-03. An ordinance amending chapter 167, Code of Ordinances of North Liberty, Iowa, entitled Zoning Code Definitions by amending section 16701, entitled Definitions by deleting the definitions congregate, residence, family, and sign, and by amending the definition dwelling unit and amending chapter 173, Code of Ordinances, North Liberty, entitled Zoning Code Sign Regulations by amending section 173.02, entitled Definitions by amending the definition sign and adding the definition sign window, and by amending section 173.05, entitled Exempt Signs by amending section 12 pertaining to window informational signs. Anyone wish to establish the second reading?
So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion or questions? Tracy, please.
Harrington,
Aye.
Wason,
Aye.
Smith,
Aye.
Pollock,
Aye.
Hoffman.
Aye.
I understand 5 ayes, no nays, correct? Second reading passes 5 affirmative, none opposed. Third and final reading, next regular council session. Number 11, 2020 A bond sale. Now is the time for a public hearing on proposal to enter into a general purpose loan agreement. Anyone online, or have we had comments in regards to that?
No.
Thank you. Having received no comments, call the public hearing to a close. Before you have resolution number 2020-50. A resolution taking additional action on general purpose loan agreement, setting date for the sale of general obligation corporate purpose bonds, series 2020-A. Anyone wish to establish that resolution?
So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Discussion or questions? Tracy, take roll, please.
Wason,
Aye.
Pollock,
Aye.
Smith,
Aye.
Hoffman,
Aye.
Harrington.
Aye.
I heard 5 ayes, no nays. Is that correct? Resolution passes 5 affirmative, none opposed. Number 12, now's the time for a public hearing regarding the city's awarded CDBG project for the Emergency Child Care Fund. Do we have anyone that wishes to make a public comment, or have we received any written comments on that, please? Tracy?
We have not received any, but there are several things that I need to run through.
Okay.
So as a part,
I had that written down, so you're safe.
okay,
All right, hearing none, reading none, call the public hearing to a close. Tracy?
so as a part of this public hearing, the city is required to address 9 different items in the minutes. The first is the need for the Community Development Block Grant Project. During the COVID-19 pandemic, the city wrote a grant application and was awarded funds for childcare for school-age kids, because during the pandemic, daycares and childcare facilities were closed and or limited in their childcare providing opportunities. So 2 is a description of the CDBG funded project and activities. The project that was funded is the Emergency Child Care Program, which offered free child care to essential workers during the COVID-19 pandemic for school-age children. The amount of CDBG funds for the project was the $12,000 that was received in the grant. The estimated amount of CDBG assistance that will benefit low to moderate income persons, that's hard to estimate with no income survey. I ballparked maybe 30% of the kids that were served would qualify as low to moderate income. The location of the project activities is the North Liberty Community Center. Any relocation that will have to take place as a result of this CDBG project, that's not applicable. The city or county contact information for residents if they have concerns or complaints regarding the project, they can certainly reach out to me, Tracy Mulcahy, the city clerk at City Hall. The next is community development and housing needs of low to moderate persons in the city and any planned or potential activities to address those needs. We would ask the public that if they have any input, to please reach out and provide those to me, and those comments will be included in the minutes. The next is, and final, is other community development and housing needs and any planned or potential activities to address these needs. So if anyone has public input on that item, please send them to my direction and they will be included in the public comments in these minutes as well.
Okay, thank you. You have before you resolution number 2020-51, a resolution approving the policies required by the Community Development Block Grant Program for the Emergency Child Care Program. Within that resolution, it also speaks to the fact that the program requires adoption of the following policies: residential anti-displacement relocation assistance program plan called RARA, excessive force resolution, equal opportunity policy, fair housing policy, code of conduct, and procurement policy. So anyone wish to establish that resolution, please?
So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Discussion or question?
Tracy, thanks for all your work on this. This was a much needed and necessary thing that we did. It's great that we were able to help out local families. So thank you for that.
Absolutely.
Tracy, take roll.
Pollock,
Aye.
Wason,
Aye.
Smith,
Aye.
Harrington,
Aye.
Hoffman.
Aye.
I heard 5 ayes, no nays. Is that correct? Resolution passes 5 affirmative, none opposed. Next item is water rate increase. Now's the time for a public hearing regarding the proposed water rate increase. Anyone wish to make comments or have received any comments, written comments?
No comments have been received.
Thank you. I'm sure we'll get comments after the first reading's done too. So hearing that, close the public hearing. This will be the first consideration of ordinance number 2020-04, an ordinance amending chapter 9202 entitled Rates of Service of the Municipal Code of North Liberty by adopting a new section 92.02 to increase the charges for water used. Anyone wish to establish that first consideration?
So moved. Second.
In second, Ryan, please give an explanation why so the public can hear what's going on.
Sure, thank you. It's unfortunately that time of year where we talk about our utility rates, and for the last better part of 10 years, I think we've increased both water and wastewater rates. This year, we feel comfortable where our wastewater rates are at, what our revenues and expenses look like, and our debt service coverage. Unfortunately, we still have some work to do on our water utility. And so when we propose a rate increase, we look at a couple things. One being the debt service ratio, which is highlighted in the spreadsheet in your packet. The other being the fund balance, and then of course trying to look at this model 10 plus years down the road. So we're recommending a 3% rate increase. This has been reviewed not only by Tracy and I, but also by Tiana Pooler, our financial advisor, who will be with us at our next meeting, actually, when we sell bonds. And the reason is, again, we need to make sure we have that debt service coverage. That's a requirement in our water revenue bonds. And if we go below that, we'll get dinged. And also, we want to make sure we have a fund balance in case anything should happen, down the road with the millions of dollars of equipment that we have operating at the water plant. And I'm happy to go into some specific details there. I tried to do that in some text earlier today. And as much as it pains us to have to make this recommendation, we wouldn't be responsible if we didn't. So that's where we're at. We're recommending a 3% increase for water rates, which would be effective after the third reading of this ordinance, assuming it gets that far in the process.
Any questions? Okay, it's been moved and seconded for the first consideration. Tracy?
Hoffman,
Aye.
Smith,
Aye.
Pollock,
Aye.
Wason,
Aye.
Harrington.
Aye.
I heard 5 ayes and no nays. Is that correct? First consideration passes 5 affirmative, none opposed. Donovan Estates Stormwater Management Facility Maintenance Agreement, Resolution number 2020-52. A resolution approving the amendment of the Stormwater Management Facility Maintenance Agreement and easement for Donovan Estates. Anyone wish to establish that resolution?
So move.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Questions?
Mayor, I would like a little more detail as to why the change. Being heavily involved in HOA pond management stuff for years, these are messy. They're a pain. I just want to make sure that, that this change is for right reasons, and I'm not quite understanding why.
I got you, Counselor. So this change was made at the request of the property owners and developers for the Donovan Estates subdivision. When we create a new subdivision, the process involves a developer's agreement, and then later it also involves a stormwater management facilities agreement. We call it a BMP agreement, but it makes sure that the people, the lots that benefit from stormwater detention facilities are responsible through either an HOA or some other entity for the upkeep and maintenance of them, so that when there's a bill, that there's someone to send a bill to, so we can make sure that those stay functional and then that our community stays safe from flooding. The Donovan Estates subdivision has 2 stormwater detention facilities on it. One is located in Outlot A in the extreme northwest, and the other one is located on Lot 72 in the southeast. When we first created the developer's agreement for this subdivision, there was an agreement saying that the developer would create an HOA for all of the stormwater detention facilities on outlots, but the stormwater detention facility on Lot 72 was omitted. Now, we caught that error on the stormwater facilities management agreement and specified the difference. But now with the effect is that there would be 2 HOAs, one that's responsible for one pond and one that's responsible for both ponds. And the intent would have been that the properties on lot 72, those are going to be a series of condos. Those drain into the southeasterly pond, and the single family and zero lot homes would drain into the northwestern pond and are governed by a separate HOA. And so someone tried to buy a condo, and their attorney doing their title opinion said, hey, we're not sure who's what entity is responsible for which. And so this is designed to clarify those requirements. As it is right now, everyone is responsible for everything, but that's not the intent of what was meant to happen with this. What was meant to happen is one HOA for one for the other, and that's what this agreement does.
To answer your question, Brent?
No, sir. Thank you, Grant. Just making sure that particular development, not anything against Donovan or that development, but making sure that it's plain and concise and we're not going to have an issue down the road, because I've been part of those and they're not fun.
Good deal.
Any other comments or questions? Tracy, please take roll.
Smith,
Aye.
Harrington,
Aye.
Hoffman,
Aye.
Wason,
Aye.
Pollock.
Aye.
I heard 5 ayes, no nays. Is that correct? Resolution passes 5 affirmative, none opposed. Old business. New business, please plan on the meeting in June to be Zoom. We will look at trying to get back into our regular council chambers starting in July, depending how events go. So one more, and then maybe we can find our home again. Any other new business?
Mayor, I wanted to reach out and again thank Councilor Harrington for her organization of the event that took place here in North Liberty, speaking to the recent events across our country. I saw a number of my fellow councilors there. Thank you for coming. And Rakisha, it was very well done. It was very touching and moving. The way in which the information was shared, education was shared. Young folks were able to stand up and speak their hearts, really touched my heart. And I just wanted to say thank you, and we appreciate the efforts that you put in to that event.
And I just want to respond. You kind of beat me to it, but I just want to thank you all for your support and for listening to the community, because that's really how I ended up in that position to even help with that. And so just the fact that we all could come together in the time that calls for us to come together speaks volumes as to where we are as a community in wanting to address concerns immediately. I know there were some hesitations because of the media and how things were playing out in other places, but I want to thank our community for coming and for making that peaceful, for allowing people to get uncomfortable and talk about a topic. And it was not to, badger our police force by any means, but it was also to just address that some people's perspectives and experiences are definitely different, and that we need to take a deeper look at some of the policies and practices that we have. Mayor, police chief, Ryan, counselors, thank you all for coming. That has meant a lot to the folks who helped plan that. And also it has encouraged our community to step up to continue to have those conversations. So that really meant a lot to me as well.
Anything else on new business? If not, we stand adjourned. Thank you for your work this evening.
Thanks, guys. See you later.
Yeah.
Right.